over the last year, and there's been so many heartbreaking moments, not only in the past year, but also in the past week. But I want today to focus a little bit and say, let's have some hope here, my friends. Let us get some perspective on what's happening, because the Israelis would like you to believe that somehow, because they've assassinated some leaders of the Palestinian movement, that somehow the movement is going to die. Well, we have news for them, my friends, because the history of the world will tell us that there's been many, many leaders who've been murdered and assassinated, and their movements continue to grow. What comes to mind is Nelson Mandela. They imprisoned him for 21 years, but the fight against apartheid did not die. As a matter of fact, it grew in strength. Martin Luther King, he fought for civil rights, and so did Malcolm X.
Why should the black man in America concern himself, since we've been away from the African continent for 400 years, 300 or 400 years? Why should we concern ourselves? What impact does what happened to them have upon us? Number one, first you have to realize that up until 1959, Africa was dominated by the colonial powers, and by the colonial powers of Europe having complete control over Africa, they projected the image of Africa negatively. They projected Africa always in a negative light. Jungles, savages, cannibals, nothing civilized.
I know you're asking today, how long will it take? Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, yes, sir, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth crushed earth will rise again. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. Yes, sir. Because no lie can live forever. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. How long? Because you shall reap what you sow.
Yes, they all fought for civil rights in the United States, and when they assassinated those two leaders, the movement grew stronger and grew stronger to the point where he could not ignore the civil rights of the black community in the United States. And I can tell you from my own experience, from my own homeland, we had an intifada in 1916 when we kicked the British out of Ireland. But after that uprising, they took the leaders out into the courtyard and they executed 8 of the leaders of the Irish uprising. That did not kill the movement, my friends. It grew stronger and stronger and stronger to the point that a half a dozen years later, Ireland had its freedom, one of the first nations in the world to take on the might of the British Army and basically win their freedom. Mahatma Gandhi, they imprisoned him about 15 different times. Did that kill the Indian desire for freedom? No, it did not, my friends. It only grew stronger, and India got its freedom from the British as well. So I want to go back to more recent history in Ireland. And the British were on the streets of Northern Ireland. And in the city of Derry, they shot dead 13 protesters.
Appearing to be dead, there are the 3 in that Saracen car. There are 2 men lying at the end of this block of flats. There's another man at least very close to being dead. There are 2 others up there. I'm told that there are some more in these flats here that I haven't seen yet.
There seem to have been a very large number of casualties.
Well, I suppose 5 is quite large in these circumstances. It's unfortunate.
Local people are saying that you used excessive force when you went in there.
Well, what is force? If you're being fired at, you return fire, and they know that perfectly well.
Do not fire back for the moment! unless you identify positive targets.
You have no worries about this action?
None at all.
13 protesters were shot dead. And instead of destroying the movement, the IRA ended up with its greatest recruitment that they'd ever had in the previous 50 years. Thousands of people joined the fight against the British Army. And then, in very, very recent history, in the 1980s, Bobby Sands died on hunger strike in a prison, the Maze prison in Belfast. Bobby Sands and 8 other martyrs, 8 other Irish patriots, they also died.
And so Bobby Sands was buried, and Northern Ireland waits to see what happens next.
But in fact, he posed a really significant challenge to revolutionaries, because by reaching back into Irish history, into the notion that actually you win by enduring and not by inflicting suffering, he changed the nature of how people should think about how they might force political change. You win when you capture the public imagination.
Did they kill the movement when Margaret Thatcher allowed those hunger strikers to die? Like hell they did. They grew stronger and they grew stronger, my friends. And then I will just finish on this. There was a great Irish patriot and his name was James Connolly. And James Connolly is a trade union leader. And Connolly was also in the Intifada and he bombed the General Post Office in Dublin and he was wounded. And they took him out and they sat him on a chair in Kilmainham jail and they shot a bullet through his heart. But they didn't kill the uprising, my friends, because the Irish continued to fight. And I say it to you today, because they assassinate a couple of leaders of the Palestinian movement, it does not mean for 1 second that the Palestinian movement and the desire for freedom, the desire for dignity, the desire to be able to be treated as basic decent human beings